Okay, I'm going to do another tutorial today. My last tutorial dealt with static fragments. This one's going to be about transitioning fragments. So the static fragments aren't very useful except for putting something that's going to be permanently on the screen, such as a list view or list fragment. This one is going to be where you could take an item from one fragment and call new fragments to display on the screen. What you're going to need is, in this tutorial, I'm going to do a starter fragment. So it's a fragment that when the app is launched, it's going to display one fragment. A display on the left-hand side of the screen with a bunch of buttons, and then a few fragments that each button corresponds to. So when you tap on a button, it launches a new fragment. So we're going to start a new project. Okay, I'm going to name it Transitioning Fragments. And for this one, we're going to do an API of 3.0 or higher. Alright, so now I've got to find your... Alright, so we have our main activity. Let me rename this so it's a little bit easier. Let's create a few fragments. So we'll start off with a start fragment. Let's do fragment 1. Fragment 2. And do a third fragment. Alright. We'll just do extends fragment override public view on creates view. We got layout inflator, view group, and bundle. Return inflator.inflate r.layout. We're going to name this one eventually fragment _3. We're going to put container and false. So if you don't know what I did, please look at my last fragment or my last tutorial video. This is your basic view for a fragment. This fragment's not going to do anything, but this is how you call a fragment or display one from an XML layout. So you got that. We're going to copy this part. Go to fragment 2, extends fragments, paste it. We're going to change this one to 2, import, and then same thing for 1. And same thing for the starter fragment as well. We'll change this to 1. We're going to name this fragment start fragment, and we'll import fragment. Okay, so this part of the coding is all done. We can just close out our projects here, or our fragments. And next we're going to do our layout files. So let's create fragments. We'll do, let's see, Android XML file. We have start underscore fragment. And this we'll just put a text view with, alright, let's change the background because I like being able to see it. So Android background. And this is a kind of a gray color. We'll do a text view, Android layouts width equals match Android layout height equals match. Let's put some text in there. Text. Select a button from the left. Android text color. And I want this black, so 00000. And we'll do gravity. I want this center. So if you look at your graphical layout, once you save it, you got a gray background. Oh, let's change the size so it's actually readable. Android text size 80 dp sounds good. Right? Yeah, nice and big. Maybe let's knock down a little bit. Let's do 60. Okay, and we're going to essentially do the same for the other fragments. So I'm just going to copy this. And we'll do a new Android XML. Do fragment 1. Let's change the background again. And we'll change this text to this is fragment 1. And so I have to type even less next time. I'm going to copy this. Create a new, new XML. Name this fragment 2. And then we need a third fragment. Okay, so new fragment 3. So now when you select the button, it's going to display this whole fragment. Now the reason why I'm showing you this way, even though I could do just a text view, is I want you to be able to show you how you could call, extensive fragments with, full, what would be an activity on anything pre-honeycomb is now can be a fragment and put in that same spot. My goal is in the next tutorial is actually to show you how to turn a typical activity into a fragment, because there are slight changes that need to be made. So then let's go into these and actually find out what's wrong with them. Oh, it's actually missing. All these are missing. One more of these. That's it. Forgot to copy it from the right spot. Alright. So next thing I'm going to do is we're going to change this main XML file. So we currently have a text view which just displays the app name. I'm going to get rid of that. We're going to change this to horizontal because I want my two views to be laid out left and right, so that's going to be a horizontal layout. Next, do another linear layout. Let's see this. We just need a Android layout height equals fill. Sorry. Wrap content. Android layout width. Equal, we're going to do 0 dp because we're actually going to use weights instead. So layout weight. We're going to put this as a weight of 1, and we'll do orientation of vertical, since I'm going to do a bunch of buttons on top of each other. So now I put the buttons here. Button. Do button 1. Layout width equals fill parent on this one. Android layout height equals wrap content. Android text. Do fragment 1. Android. Let's see, is that all I need? Should be all I need, actually. Well, let's find out. What is it missing? Okay, so if I put it in here. Okay, so that's all you need as far as information to get the buttons going. So we'll just copy this. We'll do button 2, 2, 3, 3. So now we should have 3 buttons. Okay, that's good. Next thing we're going to do is create another layout. This one is just going to be another linear layout. But this one's going to be a little different. We're going to give this one an ID. We'll just call it my fragments. We'll give it a layout width of 0 dp because we're going to put a weight attribute with it instead. Android layout height. We'll do wrap content. Android layout weight. We'll do this one as 3. So it's going to be 3 times the width of the other layout. I don't need an orientation aspect because it's just a placeholder for the fragments that we're going to stick inside of it. Hang on one second. Okay, so this is just a placeholder. So when we go to back to our graphical layout, you can actually see like here's your my fragments linear layout is right here, and here are your buttons over here. And actually, the height aspect is incorrect on this, so I'm going to change that real quick. The layout, let's see, should be fill parents. Let's see if that works. Yeah, there we go. And that should be the same for this one. I mean, it just wraps the content, so there's actually nothing underneath there. But we should just change this to fill parent. And another thing, I really don't like the holo dark theme. I'm not really going to change it, but you can change the theme in Android Manifest, but I'm just going to change the background since that's what I did on the other ones anyway. So save that, and then we actually have to change the text color. So text color, we'll change this to black. I'll just copy this. So now when you look at it, you got a nice gray background. You have two fragments, or sorry, two linear layouts. You got 3 buttons, and now I'm going to link them all together by the main activity. So we're going to close this out since that's all done. Launch up the main activity, and just give me 1 second. So we're going to have to change this to fragment, and then button. We have button 1, button 2, button 3. We'll import those. And then we'll give these, we'll identify these so that the activity knows what button goes to what click. So find view by ID, r.id. This one's button 1. Button 2 equals, oops, view.id, r.id. Button 2. Button 3. Oops, I keep doing that. Do button 3. And next we're going to call Fragment Manager. And right now what we're going to do with this is actually we're just going to set the initial fragment to that start fragment. So start fragment, my fragment. That's just what I'm not calling it. This is an arbitrary. You can name this that my fragment, anything you want. It doesn't have to be my fragment. It's just what I'm naming it for the tutorial. And don't forget the colons here. And then ft, which is that fragment transaction. We got to add it. So r.id. And then we're going to place it there, and we're going to call it my fragment. Oh, sorry. And then we have to commit anything before the fragment manager is going to do anything. The final command is commit. So then we have to set on-click listeners for the buttons. So button 1 dot set on click. And we'll just call it button on click listener. And we're going to keep the same on click listener for all of them. If you wanted to change the on click listener, you can define it in the XML by setting an attribute for on click and naming it something. But we don't have to in this case. So we're just going to copy this and paste it. And we'll just rename this to button 2 and this button 3. Alright. And this is going to go away in just a second. So we're going to do button dot on click listener btn on click listener equals new button dot on click listener. Ooh, that's override. Oh, don't forget your colon. I just do that first, so I don't have to worry about it. Or semicolon, sorry. So we're going to define fragments, new fragments. So this is going to be the fragment that replaces the starter fragment and every other fragment after that. So, oh, oops. We got to put public over public void on click uv. We'll get rid of this. Needs to go after there. So now if v equals button 1, we need to define new fragment as new fragment 1. Else if v equals button 2, new fragment 2. Else if v equals button 3, new fragment equals new fragment 3. And then we got to set a default. Else new fragment equals new start. Since we have a start fragment, we can just name it that. Set that as default. So then we go new fragment transaction. We'll call this one transaction equals get fragment manager dot begin transaction transact dot replace r.id.myFragment. That's the same placeholder. That's the linear layout. We're going to new fragment is correct. Now we're going to do transaction dot add to backstack. What this does is when the user hits the back button, instead of closing the app, it's just going to load the fragment before that. I'll show you what I mean when we run this thing in just one more line of code. So we need to commit it. So transaction dot commit. You know what? I'm going to add one more thing. I'm going to do transaction dot set transition. And this one you're going to type out fragments transaction fully, because that's the actual, you're essentially putting a new one in there. And then we're going to do fade. So this is going to replace and add it to backstack and fade it, and then between the two and commit it. So this is done. Actually, this is a full-fledged working app. So let's run it. Save it. I changed this main activity, so let me double check in the Android manifest, or else it's going to crash on me. We have to make sure this activity is main activity, which it is, so it shouldn't crash, which is good. Yes, and it should run in here. Okay, so here's our starter fragment. When we click on fragment 1, this is fragment 1. This is fragment 2. Oh, I forgot to change that in XML layout. That's why that's happening. Or not in XML, in this. So fragment 2, when we go here, or here, it says fragment 3 in the fragment 2. So let's change that, save it, and rerun it. That's the bad thing about copy and paste, but it does save a lot of time. As long as you know what you did wrong, it's really not that bad. So now when we select fragment 2, it says fragment 2. Fragment 1, fragment 3. Now what I was talking about to add to the backstack is now when we hit this, the last one that I selected was fragment 1. So it's going to go back to fragment 1, now fragment 2, and then the starter fragment. And now when I click back, it's gone. So that's what add to backstack. You can choose to use it or not. If you don't use it, it's not going to save that backspace thing, so the back button. So that's a quick tutorial on how to do transitioning fragments.